training goals. And no, you're fine, you're all good.
Depends on the program as well.
Exactly
Depends
right.
on what you're doing, how comfortable you feel. I'd say a weight that you feel comfortable with, that you can hit the desired reps with the desired technique and you feel confident with it.
Correct, yeah.
No point going to something if you don't feel confident with it and you feel like, oh, I know I'm doing something wrong, but I'm not quite sure. It's like go back to a regression potentially. Like I said, when we did that plate squat, you could do even just a goblet squat, something like that. Even using something like the V squat. We've got a PDF we'll send you guys out with some regressions as well, with videos and exercise techniques and all that, so you guys can have a look at that. So you can always start from the bottom of the chain and work your way up if you're not comfortable jumping straight in here. But it's always good to jump in and sort of have a go and have a look and then be like, oh, okay, I know if I can then do all those regressions comfortably and confidently, I should be able to get to the bar and feel confident. And of course, your first week or two, you're always going to feel like you're a bit all over the shop. Your nervous system's just going to get better at adapting and putting you in that position as well. So that'll get better.
Better to do lower weights, correct your form, than
I would say so, yeah, exactly right. But again, there's going to be a position as well where it's going to be hard, because that's when sometimes it's good to have someone to push you. Because you're going to be like, oh, you're just going to stay comfortable stay comfortable like that forever. And it's like, again, if there's a tiny bit of movement, like it's okay, like you're not going to die if your pelvis rounds slightly. So there's, you've got to push yourself as well. So with all the sort of big compounds, it's probably a good thing to talk about as well, that we don't want to take these to complete failure. Like if we take the big compounds to complete failure over and over and over again, that's generally when you get injured. That's generally when something happens, because something eventually has to give. Might not be this week, might not be next week, might not be next year, but something's going to give, which is why a lot of people come in, they have a cycle of, good 4 months of deadlifting, then they get injured. They're not, okay, I'll start back up again with the physio, they build back up, same thing happens. It's because they're not addressing the actual pattern and the dysfunction they have in the first place, and then they just keep going back and back and back. Like I've got a mate, deadlifts like lower back just straight away, extends, every 3 weeks he's in the physio, he just goes back to deadlifting. So it's a vicious cycle.
Before start with the upper, not as intense stuff, and work your way to this. So when you get to this, and then you get to your weight where you can't lift it, like squat anymore, because you start to doing your technique.
Yep.
Is that when you stop this?
So that's when, again, we'll come down to coaching. So it's like, we will find, where's the movement breaking down? Are you breaking down at the bottom? Are you breaking down at the top? Where are you weakest? And then that can be in further phases of programming. Let's say, for example, then we go through variations of squatting. So again, low bar, high bar, front squat, etc. And then it could be even, okay, my quads are, they're limiting me to drive up for the top. I'm getting very, hip dominant. Maybe I need a phase of, putting more volume through my quads, leg press, leg extensions, split squats, Like a really good one for me is I find if people don't have the ankle mobility to drive forward is obviously popping some plates on the heels. But then to do that as well, to actually get the ankle mobility, potentially doing a split squat where we're not worried about just dropping down, we're actually trying to drive the knee forward over the toe. Because that's going to get you, obviously, the quad adaptations in terms of getting stronger, but it's also going to help with your ankle mobility. So there are things where, I guess doing just random programs off the internet, definitely not a bad thing. But then once you have individual differences, that's when, I guess, coaching comes into play a lot more, as in, especially when people get strong. There's going to be little tweaks that, might be 8 weeks of programming, might be worth that extra 5 kilos on the squat with the next phase you go into or something like that. And you will notice as you get stronger, the gains are going to get smaller and smaller. Like if I can add at the moment an extra rep with anything I'm doing, I'm wrapped. Like that's all I need to do. Whereas in someone who's more of a beginner might be able to put 5 kilos on their squat every single week for 12 weeks until they get to a sticking point. So like I said, everyone's different. Form number one, form and technique number one, and then from there you just want to build up to where you feel confident, comfortable. And even if you can just do, say you're doing 3 sets, you can do another rep across those 3 sets, still progression at the end of the day. So slow progression is going to add up to big gains over weeks, months, years. Even filming as well, like feel free to just pop to the side, film it.
Yeah.
I know it's a bit daunting when you're like, oh, I have to film something in front of someone. Literally, I just put my thing there, I flip my camera around, no one even notices. I'll just bench it, I'll send it to my coach. He'll be like, oh, sweet, you just need to do this and that. And I'll be like, I didn't even think about that. And I've got 10 years of training experience, and it's just something so simple, so small that someone else can pick up when you can't see it yourself, when you think you're doing the correct thing. Like I said, as coaches, I get Liv to come watch me all the time. And sometimes it's just like, make sure I don't bitch out of this rep.
Like Josh and I are personal trainers, but we also have our own personal trainers. Because you're never gonna be the best at anything. There's always gonna be something you can improve on. Even if it's just a 1% thing, it, like Josh said, it compounds. So if you feel like you've hit a plateau and you don't know how to get better from there, seek help of someone who can identify a 1%er for you.
And again, we've got Amy at the front as well.
Yeah.
She squats pretty heavy. She knows what she's doing as well.
Yeah.
She's always on there from 10 to 7, Monday to Friday. So just go and ask her. Just be like, can you watch my squat? Is there any pointers? Anything to improve on? We're all here to help you guys. So, all right, want to move on to bench?